Democracy in action.
All right, we are live streaming in 3, 2, 1, action.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hendrick-Hudson School Board of Education Candidates Forum. My name is Janine Eichenholz, and I'm a board member of Power Through Cortland, a nonpartisan community organization and co-sponsor, along with the Hendrick-Hudson Community Educational Foundation of tonight's event. This year, we have 4 candidates running for 2 open trustee positions on our Board of Education. Each trustee position is for a 3-year term. The school board election will take place on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. Voting will be held in person at the Frank G. Lindsay School behind the Hendrick-Hudson High School at 57 Trolley Road in Montrose. Voting hours are from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. on Tuesday, the 18th. Absentee ballots may be requested ahead of time. If you would like an absentee ballot mailed to you, it must be requested no later than this coming Tuesday, May 11th. If you'd like to pick up an absentee ballot in person, you can do so at the district office, which is behind Frank G. Lindsay, up until Monday, May 17th. All absentee ballots must be received by the district clerk no later than 5 p.m. on Tuesday, May 18th. More information on absentee ballots can be found on the district website at henhudschools.org. Tonight's candidates forum is being moderated by the League of Women Voters. Our moderator tonight is Stephen Cohen, president of the League of Women Voters of White Plains. Joan Vogt, my co-board member on Power Through Cortland, will serve as our timekeeper. Thank you to our candidates for making themselves available tonight for this forum. Thank you to everyone who submitted questions ahead of time. And thank you to all who are watching and listening and will be voting on Tuesday, the 18th. Thank you, Stephen. It's all yours.
Thank you, Janine. Well, good evening and welcome to the Hendrick-Hudson School Board Candidates Forum. This forum will be recorded in its entirety and will be available for viewing on the district's YouTube channel with a link posted on the district website. Other than this, recording of this event is prohibited. No candidate or any other individual will be allowed to use or edit media footage of the forum for campaign purposes. I'll just review with the audience the forum ground rules that I went over with the candidates prior to starting this evening. The candidates have drawn lots for the order of speaking. The reverse order will be used for closing statements. The order of answering questions will be rotated among the candidates. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for an opening statement and 1 minute for a closing statement. The forum will follow a traditional question and answer format with timed responses. All candidates will be asked the same questions and each will be given 1 minute and 30 seconds to respond. A candidate will be allowed to finish a sentence once started, but the moderator will enforce the time limits. If a candidate does not use all the time allotted for a response, the unused time may not be applied to any other purpose or question. Time cards will be used by a timekeeper to alert the moderator and the candidates when there are 30 seconds response time remaining and when time has expired. Audience questions were collected in advance and will not be taken during the forum. Questions were selected by the board members of Power Through Cortland to reflect a broad range of topics. In some cases, multiple questions may have been combined. Candidates will not interrupt one another or the moderator during the forum. Candidates were not provided with any of the questions in advance. Except for time limits, the only restriction on candidate statements and questions, candidate question answers, is respect and civility. Now I'd like to introduce the 4 candidates for 3 seats on the school board. In order of speaking, the candidates are Jennifer Bacher, Luke Dykes, Sarah Rubin, and Alexis Bernard. We will begin with opening statements from the candidates, and the first opening statement will be made by Jennifer Bacher. Jennifer?
Thank you to the League of Women Voters and Power Through Cortland for hosting this event and our community for joining. My name is Jennifer Bacher. My husband and I have 3 children in the district. We have a 7th grader at Blue Mountain and twins fourth graders at Buchanan Verplank. Having been raised in the Hendrick-Hudson School District, it gives me a sense of pride to have my children walk through many of the same halls that I did as a child. Along with this pride, I also feel a sense of responsibility and obligation to pay forward everything this community has given me. I seek to help and support as an active member of my children's PTA, a former Girl Scout leader, and a current Village of Buchanan Planning Board member. I consider myself a passionate learner even as an adult. By education, I am an engineer driven by innovation and strategy. I have 20 years of project management experience working with diverse groups of people, developing cost-effective solutions, balancing competing goals, and meeting deadlines. Collaboration and communication are key traits of a successful team. Collaborating to identify the issues, reviewing data, asking questions, and listening. Communicating to ensure all points of view are presented and understood, as well as providing that information to all parties so there is clear understanding of why decisions were made. A Board of Education is unique in that it is founded on ensuring educational excellence to children who individually may not have the knowledge to advocate for themselves. As trustees, we must remember we work for the community and with the administration, and most importantly, we are stewards to all of our children. I come ready to support this community, which has provided me the opportunities that have enabled me to find my own success. Thank you.
Thank you. We turn next to Luke Dicus. Luke?
They made a joke earlier that someone was going to do that, and that was me. My apologies. All right, thank you, everybody. And forgive my public speaking, because I don't do it so often. My name is Luke Dicus. I moved down here from Washington County 7 years ago with my wife. We chose Hendrick-Hudson from the whole blank slate of New York with no rose-tinted nostalgia, no loyalty, just choosing this district and this community based on its merits. 7 years later, we're still here. We have a kindergartner in BV, we have a 1-year-old, and we are thrilled with the decision that we made. I'll say that moving here as an outsider, it was clear to us, that this district was riding a gravy train of excellent schools and, for Westchester, at least, moderate taxes. And it was clear to us as outsiders that that gravy train was one day going to end, and we would have to deal with that. We did not think it was going to happen this fast. But here it is. Gravy train is over. Here we are. And now the question is, what do we do with this district next? How do we move forward? So I think when I look at this district, I see two main hurdles that are facing us. The first is obviously Indian Point. There are practical safety issues that we need to manage. And maybe more even, or as much, there's the financial impact. It's a third of our funding. The existing Board of Education just voted to do the Princeton plan for 2022. I'm sure everyone watching knows that. To me, now the question is, what do we do next? What do we do with this district? We have a fresh opportunity to start from scratch, to solve today's fiscal crisis, to position ourselves better for tomorrow and for whatever is coming down, to build a hen hud that works best for all of us. How we do that, I think, relates to the second point, and I see I'm now running out of time. So I'm just going to hit the bullet points here. But the main issue is the broken relationship between the BOE and the administration and the larger community. It has been bad, it has gotten worse, it is untenable. And I have some concrete ideas on how to fix that. I think that we need to set up a standing network to get information out into the community far beyond the schools.
Thank you, Luke.
All right. I promise to stay unmuted next time. I appreciate it.
We turn now to Sarah Rubin. Sarah?
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Rubin, and thank you all for joining us tonight. I have 3 children in the district. Jake is in 7th grade, Marlon is in 3rd grade, and Mila's in 1st grade. My husband and I moved here 9 years ago from Queens. I didn't grow up here. We chose this community. We chose it for its affordable taxes, proximity to the city, and most importantly, the community and schools. We did a tremendous amount of research on how Hen Hud fared with neighboring districts and trusted this district would be right for our children and our family. I think it's very important that we have elementary school representation on the board. It is the foundation of our children's education, and we don't have that at this time. I'd like to note that my son Jake went through BV for his elementary education as he was in the ICT classroom. I commend our special education department, as those teachers have been nothing short of fantastic. I have children with IEPs, so I have a lot of experience in this area. I will always be supportive of our SPED programs and ensuring every child gets the education he or she needs. As a practicing attorney for more than 21 years, I have the skill set that will be an asset to the board. I have the unique ability to fact check, analyze contracts and other documents, negotiate on tough issues, and most importantly, advocate for our entire community. Our community is divided right now, and I think we can do a lot better with communication and transparency. People feel a huge disconnect with the district administrators and the BOE. We as a community are begging to be heard, and it's extremely difficult to reach our board and share thoughts, opinions, and ideas. As a trustee, I will make sure things are done differently and the community will be heard. During this journey, I've talked to and met so many members of our community. I would like to bring back meet and greets where the trustees and stakeholders can have open dialogues to discuss pertinent issues. I would keep parents abreast of all proposed changes and make sure all of their feedback is heard. Board of Education.
Thank you, Sarah.
Okay, thank you.
Stephen, you need to unmute.
Okay, so there you go. Next, we turn to Alexis Bernard. Alexis?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name's Alexis, and I'm a lifelong resident of this community. I graduated from Hendrick Hudson High School after going through our entire school system, beginning with kindergarten. I had a wonderful childhood living here in this town and have had many opportunities in life because of the success that I had as a student in our district. I'm a mother to 3 young boys. Nico is 10, Colton is 4, and Austin is 2. In fact, I'm also a mother of a child with an IEP and part of our special education program. We are facing extremely challenging times with Indian Point closing, the loss of revenue and our safety concerns, elementary education restructuring, and the list goes on and on. I felt that I just could not stand by and watch from the sidelines. I believe that the skill set that I've developed through my education and real-world work experience, combined with my local roots and widespread network, would be an asset for the school board. I could read you my resume and go on, but I think the most important thing that you should note is that my heart beats for this community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for caring about our home and our school district. I hope that you learn about me tonight through the answers that I give for these questions. My mission is pretty clear. I want to work hard at improving the Hendrick Hudson School District. And I want to do this with you by listening and coming together. Our community has never been this divided. It's unnecessary. And it's time that we really come together and fix this. So thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll ask a series of questions as compiled by Power Through Cortland. And the first question we will start with Luke. Why are you running for the Board of Education? Was there anything specific that prompted you to decide to run and to run now?
I don't think that there was a specific policy issue or what prompted me to run for the Board of Education was watching how divided and angry the community was in wrestling with first reopening with COVID and much more the board's decision to adopt the Princeton plan. Though the way that they arrived at that decision was pretty flawed, and I think there's a lot of room to improve that, and I think the existing board is already working on that. But I really felt like if this community is going to remain the place that I wanted to move to and the place that I want to raise my children in, it needs a force to bring it together. And with all the changes that we're facing, we are not going to get through unless we can come together and find common intentions between all of our different opinions. We are diverse in every way that you can count it. And we all want what's best for what we see as our community and our kids. And I think that I have the skills and personality to find those common threads and bring them together with a fresh perspective of someone who is not trying too much to repeat what's in the past. I think this community is amazing, and where it came from is what drew me, but I also think that things change and we need to change with them and find the Hendrick Hudson of tomorrow that works for everyone. And I think I can help realize that.
Thank you. Sarah?
So my decision to run is not short-lived at all. I've been thinking about this for probably, I'd say maybe 4 years now. The last time I was thinking of running 4 years ago was also a contested race. So clearly I don't want to be on the Board of Ed when there's an uncontested election for whatever reason. My main decision to go for it this time is the lack of communication I see in our district. And I feel really, really, really passionate about this. I watch the Board of Ed meetings nearly every time they have them, and the community is just not being heard. And it's very, very, very upsetting. I think the lack of communication is the reason why we have such a division in our population right now, in our district right now. I don't even think it's necessarily because of policies or anything else like that. I think communication is key. I'm a communicator. I do this for a living. I think we need to have some checks and balances. We can't just go along with whatever our administration wants. And we really, really, really need to have some accountability out there. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you. We turn now to Alexis.
Okay, so it's only been quite, maybe 2-3 years that I've really been tuned into the district, especially when last year COVID became intense. We all dialed in a little bit more. And what I learned over the course of time watching the board meetings, especially, in this situation where we're really just watching them and not participating, is that so much goes on, at the board and administrative level that's not reflective of our community, from what I believe. As Sarah and Luke both mentioned, there's definitely some sort of separation of communication. We're not really reaching out in the right ways and gathering the important facts, data, opinions, and nobody feels heard, right? Whether we're doing it or not, it's how our community members feel, it's how our parents feel, and they're struggling. So that is number one. But also, I think that we're at a time right now with so much going on, right? There's all these different challenges that we have an opportunity to reinvent ourselves. We don't need to be the cheapest. We don't need to figure out how to cut programs. We really need to figure out how to rebuild our district. It might be going through the budget line by line, but it's an opportunity to rebuild. And I really would love to be part of rebuilding the Hendrick Hudson School District.
Thank you. Jennifer? Unmute yourself, Jennifer.
Sorry. I'm running for my kids. I'm running for your kids. I'm running for all the kids in this district. I agree with most of the other candidates. We are community divided, and having grown up here, it's been this way, but it has increased over the past few years. We do have a lot of changes going on, but I think, there's room for change. There's room to make effective changes. We need to look at how we work together, how we communicate with each other. Over the past year, we've been watching board meetings, and I think this community is ready to start participating in them again. I think that we need to look at student achievement. How are we reclosing the gaps of student achievement at a younger age, so that we can ensure that all our children have the ability to move through high school and then have life skills. I'm just ready that it's time for a change, and I think that it's a great time to be part of the board in order to make those changes.
Thank you. This second question will start first with Sarah. What experiences do you have that have prepared you to become a Board of Education trustee? Please include all district or community activities or organizations with which you have been involved that helped you prepare for this role.
Okay. I love this question. Fantastic. So I'm an attorney. I have very passionate beliefs. Since I moved here and my son Jake was at BV, I was very, very, very active in BV. Now that my other two children are at Furnace Woods, I'm very active in Furnace Woods. For years, I was always the class mom. I participated in PTA events, and I'm very involved with their schools. What qualifies me is, number one, I'm an attorney. I can analyze things. I'm passionate about my beliefs. I advocate. I believe in something, I go for it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm right, I'm going for it, and I'm supporting myself. The second thing is my communication skills. I'm an effective communicator. I speak in front of people all the time. I engage in settlement discussions, in mediations. That's 100% one of my strengths, and I feel that the Board of Ed definitely needs communication at this time. I have a relationship with different people in our community, not just my peers, not just my kids' peers, parents, but I have a relationship with our retired community. I have a relationship with our parents that don't have children in schools yet. And that's what makes me qualified.
Thank you. Alexis.
Yeah, so one, I mentioned in my opening that I've been a community member since birth. So I have a widespread network, and I happen to know people at all different levels, right? No children, retired, just starting families. So that's a great asset. But I'm also a parent. I have 3 children of all different age groups, 2, 4, 10, so preschool, elementary, middle school. I've been involved with Frank G. Lindsay since my son entered on various levels. I'm also a volunteer in the community. I was a volunteer coach for many years. I've gotten to know a lot of the children, and my husband's a volunteer coach, and I sit on the board of the lacrosse program as the treasurer. So I am constantly juggling the parents, the children, the needs, and more so talking about my skill set. I'm the vice president of sales for my marketing and promotional company that I work for, Access Promotions. I run a team, and on my team, we are working constantly to service our clients and their various needs. Our clients come from all walks of life, right? Every single different industry. So I know how to work with people of all walks. We budget, we forecast, I help clients tell their story. We help them reinvent their story. And that's really what we want to do here at Hen HUD, build a better foundation to tell a better story.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Can you repeat the question again?
Certainly. What experiences do you have that have prepared you to become a Board of Education trustee? Please include all school district or community activities and organizations with which you have been involved that helped prepare you for this role.
So being a community member here for my entire life, I know a lot of people, and that is important, but that is not everything. I think it's important that I also enjoy meeting new people. There's a lot of new voices around this community that have not been heard. As a BV parent, I have been involved in our PTA. I ran my daughter's Girl Scout troop for 6 years. And I'm also on the village board, the village planning board. My experience as a Girl Scout leader were really interesting. You got to watch children evolve, girls work together from kindergarten to 5th grade. And you can see how divides happen. And I think it's really important that we educate our children to bring those divides, to prevent those divides from happening. As a skill set, I'm a team worker, I'm a team builder. I work on teams all the time. I thrive on them. I understand how to set goals and how to meet deadlines. I love to find new ways to meet a goal. I understand how to develop budgets and track them and follow them. I set standards for my team and they set standards for me. That's Thank you.
Thank you. Luke.
So with my oldest son being a kindergartner, I haven't had the opportunities that some of the other candidates have had to be quite so involved. I did join the PTA the year before even he started school to familiarize myself with that level of the community. And I was really excited about this year being able to finally branch out and connect more. And then of course, COVID has kept us all locked behind computer screens. In addition to that, I'm a board member actually at the Ossining Boat and Canoe Club, which is a local community run boating organization. I have previous board membership experience professionally. Work-wise, in the job that I do, clear communication, efficient, quick communication is really key. We have very short turnarounds, the kind of thing where a miscommunication and a mistake really yields concrete results and not just sort of, oops, we'll fix it, but the kind of wheels come off the bus kind of problems. We have tight project management, short timelines, tight budgets. I'm used to all of that, and I'm used to dealing with it without stressing or getting lost in it. The sort of rapid detail management of it comes second nature to me. I think from a personal perspective, I think that my passion in coming to this is less about taking Hendrick Hudson forward to a vision that I have of what this district ought to be, but the opportunity to find the common threads between everyone else and help steer us to that. I really feel like that is what is going to be necessary here. The people that I know are mostly local, although I have to say that's something I didn't think I'd like, was knocking on doors, and actually I really have.
Thank you. With this next question, we'll begin with Alexis. What do you see as the primary role and responsibilities of a Board of Education trustee? And unmute, right?
Okay. So they say that a board speaks with one voice, but the board does not need to listen with one ear. So I think that the main role of a trustee is to be trusted in the community and to really listen to all the community members, parents and taxpayers and teachers and administration, right? I mean, you have to be listening to everybody. I know that the role will also entail things like reviewing policies, going over budgets, choosing curriculum and picking, what programs we think are best fit for our children. But the focal point really is being aware, being present, and being an active listener. Active, not just listening and shaking your head, listening and figuring out, how do we take this information? Is it valid? How do we apply it? What do we look at? And using it to help improve, because the district is made up of the community. And the board works for the community, right? The administration and the school works for the board, and the board is there to best serve the community. So I believe that the number one role is really being trusted and listening to your community and putting those thoughts into action.
Thank you. Jennifer, and you unmute, right?
I think there's many important roles of a board of trustee. I'm going to go with three: advocate, educate, and communicate. So advocating for our children to ensure that they have the tools that they need to succeed in their education, educating that they have the support that they need, educating, ensuring that we're providing them the best education that we can. Also, we're educating our staff to ensure that they are able to provide our students with the best education, and educating our community about our policies and procedures and our expectations, and educating them on decisions, and then communicating with each other, starting with listening. The board needs to listen to all members of the community, and they need to listen to each other. And they need to listen to the staff, and work together to make sure that we find the right solution for each issue.
Thank you. Luke, and don't forget to unmute.
I don't think I'll forget again. I think that the primary role of a Board of Education trustee is to find the common ground, the common intention between the broader community of parents, of taxpayers, which in this district, very unusually in Westchester, we have more taxpayers without kids in the mix than we do with. And of the kids' educations themselves, it's to find the place where all of these things cross together in a way that is best for everybody. We are ultimately the Board of Education and not the Board of super low taxes or something like that. But without the support of the community, without finding the path forward that the community believes in, the whole thing doesn't work. The Board of Ed is really unusual in that the work that we would do as a board, ultimately our decision ends up on the ballot, and this year, May 18th, for the public to sign off on. And so we're really held to the wall to make sure that the decisions that we make looking after our children and our district's well-being are the decisions that the community wants us to. And I think that to do that in a way that is conscionable and right, we need to include the community in that decision-making process. We need to have them on board, not just so that they feel heard and are welcome, but also because their zillions of opinions and ideas are a resource that we as decision makers should be leaning on. There's no way 7 people in a room on their own can solve this problem as well or as fully as they could if they were leaning on all of the myriad different ideas that we can get from the community.
Thank you, Luke. Sarah?
I hope this doesn't weigh into my time, but can you just reread the question, please?
Certainly. What do you see as the primary role and responsibilities of a Board of Education trustee?
Okay, so I believe Alexis previously stated, we are representatives of the community. This is a democratic process. It's not about us. It's not about the other Board of Ed members. It's about the community. We're here. We were elected by the community. We are here to take their ideas, their positions, their thoughts, and bring those to the table and allow the entire board, and let's not forget the administration, know what the community is saying, what they're thinking, how they're feeling, what they agree with, what they disagree with, and what have you. Another important aspect of a Board of Ed member is to communicate with the entire district, not just little segments or individual segments. This is a two-way dialogue. There's no one-way dialogue going on here. We're a democracy. That's the way we work. We communicate, we hear each other's ideas, and that's how we go. The third thing is we need to closely, I think a Board of Ed member needs to closely look at the administration and what they're doing in terms of policies, proposals, ideas, way before anything is voted on. This is not just a free slate for the administration. There needs to be checks and balances, and that's the job of the Board of Ed.
Thank you. So for this next question, we'll begin with Jennifer. What kind of interaction do you think the Board of Education should have with the community, and what will you do to engage the trustees better with their constituents?
I think we had a good example when they presented the Princeton plan in the sense that we had some forums. I think we need to do that more often. There's a lot of topics that the community is passionate about or has a divide about, and I think that we need to provide more small group forums so that we can make sure that we hear everybody's opinion. I also think it gives everybody a chance to learn. It's not always about just saying what you want, but it's also about learning what other people are struggling with. So I think that was a positive. You know, I want to be present in the community. I want to make sure that as trustees, we're out there listening and learning about our community at events, at PTA meetings, at school fairs, school functions. I think it's important that we're not just faces on a screen or in a meeting, that people can relate to us and approach us.
Thank you. Luke?
Thank you. So I think that Jen really hit a lot of it. I also think that the structure of the way that the board interacts with the community has a lot of room to improve. I think that especially this last year, there have been a lot of people really frustrated with the way that the Board of Ed meetings are structured in terms of it being an open, transparent meeting that we can watch, but you can't participate in. But in digging into it, that's actually sort of what the state intends it to be. And looking around at how other districts actually do it, that is how people do it. But the problem is that we sort of leave it at that. And we need to change the structure of how we run these things so that there is still community involvement and some way to get information out. And one way that has worked across the country and even around New York State is that boards of ed have arranged these community conversations or special meetings where there isn't an agenda of things that need to be acted upon. It's just a two-way conversation. They're within the scope of the open meetings laws, but it's a way for everyone to get together and really have a conversation with the Board of Ed and get feedback. I think that that's incredibly useful. And I also think that we need to find some means of hybridizing the meetings that they're having. I think if you look at the pre-COVID meetings online, you can't understand anything. And I think that we've had huge viewership. People are able to watch these because not everyone can come and sit at a meeting for 4 hours on a Wednesday. But we also need a way to have the public actually come and interact live. People want that, and I think that we need to hear that as a board. So in addition to ourselves being out there, we have to change the structure of how the whole thing works.
Thank you. Sarah?
I'm sorry, Mr. Cohen, I need the question reread.
What kind of interaction do you think the Board of Education should have with the community? And what will you do to engage the trustees better with their constituents?
So I'm going to piggyback on what Luke just said. I'm all about meeting people live. Thankfully, thank God, I believe we're getting over the COVID hurdle, and it's time to get out there and meet people. I'm all about meet and greets. I remember a couple of years ago, the Board of Ed members were doing that. The candidates were doing that. It's all about face-to-face interaction, right? I mean, we've been on screens for about 14 months now. They're great, they're convenient, all that, but we need to meet face-to-face so that we can see people's emotions, we can connect with people. We're human beings. That's the way we interact with people. Another important thing is social media. I've personally, I'm not technologically gifted in any way. This whole election season has taught me way more about Facebook than I probably ever need to know. But it's important because it's a way to reach people, and it's a way of the future. And the younger generations, that's what they do. And it's easy. It's an easy way to reach people. So social media, I'm going to say, and face-to-face communication, it's enough already. We have to get out there. We have to be in the community. We need to interact with our community members and our board members.
Thank you. Alexis? And yeah.
I'm here. Okay, so first off, I think I need to learn a little bit about the legality side of this, because I do know that you can't just go, engaging the community over everything. So that's first and foremost. But I think, like every other person has said, there needs to be a presence. Meetings need to be in person. You have to be accountable. It's a much different feeling when you're with people. And we need to be present, right? Like, we have to show up at events. We have to be there. There's been graduations where there's nobody from the board or administration. That's unacceptable. And that just leads to open communication lines when you realize people are human and they're there with you. Again, we need to try new platforms. I know we have social media, but are we utilizing it properly? Are there apps that we could be using? I mean, I know lots of other school districts use certain applications that taxpayers or parents could be on to see updates and other, information from the school district. Like I said, reach out when you're allowed to the community, form small groups and really use people's passions. There's people that are so savvy on things that are going on at the plant, and the safety. And the last thing I have to say is that I don't think we use our staff properly. They are part of the community. They are incredible. We have the most amazing teachers, and we should use them.
Thank you. We'll begin this next question, the answers to this next question, with Luke. What will you do to address the upcoming shift to the Princeton plan? And how do you think the Board of Education can help bring our community together again?
Well, I mean, I feel like a huge part of figuring out what we do with Princeton is just the same song and dance that we've been saying, as far as needing to find a way to bring the community into this conversation. I think that we need their input as a resource, and we need their backing to help make it happen for real. I don't think that the ways that other districts have managed this hold all of the answers for what is the right way for Hendrick-Hudson to do it. I think there's a huge amount to learn, but I think that we need to understand both where people are coming from and what they see as the opportunities to move forward into this, or we're just going to end up tripping over our own feet. I think it's going to be interesting, but I think that we can do it. I think that we got through COVID better than anyone I thought we would. And I think that no matter who wins this election, it's clear that there's going to be change and that people are going to find some way to bring in the community. And I think that this district can do this. And we can come out the other side stronger than we were before and in a position to take better advantage of things that come down the line later. I think the Princeton plan, how we got here, is like a model in poor community engagement. But I think that there's no reason that we can't get better. And I think that the existing board has already made changes, is starting to make changes that we can continue to build on as new board members.
Thank you. Sarah?
So the first thing is, and I don't mean any disrespect, we need the plan. We haven't even seen the Princeton plan. Where is it? What does it consist of? We're allegedly getting it June 1st. Are we really? So before we can make any adjustments and modifications and easements into the plan, we kind of need to see the plan. That would be helpful. That's my number one. That's my number one statement. After we see the plan, and I'm assuming we will at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later, we really need to focus on easing the transition so that there's minimal impact on the lives of the children and the lives of the parents. Look, we have a ton of working parents in our community, and it's going to be difficult for us. The first thing we need to do is we need to look at the different bus schedules and the bus times and see how we can lessen the burden on the parents with schools operating at different hours and different start times and different end times. That's huge, huge, huge for parents, so that they're not sitting at a bus stop for an hour waiting for their kids to get off the bus. The other thing that I feel strongly about on this is that we work on something for after school and before school programming. Again, this is focused on the working parents. It's not going to be easy for us. It again has to do with the different start and end times, but we need to work on some sort of after school and before school program so that the parents can, if they have multiple children, drop their children or leave their children after school at a central location and not have to worry about
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you very much. Thank you,
their
Sarah.
kids.
Thank you, Sarah. Alexis?
Sure. So I know Princeton plan's hot topic, but we're rushing to get some answers by June 1st, when I'm pretty certain that there's not necessarily plans for teacher placement for 2021, 2022. So I'm definitely concerned there. Then I will go right into Sarah's concern of we don't know what the plan is. So it's hard to talk about how we will best implement or address or bring back the community when we don't know what the plan looks like, right? It could be beautiful, but we don't know what it is. It could be ugly and everyone's going to become more divided. So we really need to see what that plan is when it's prepared. And then I think we need to, figure out, is there a list of the biggest major valid concerns and how do we address them? Because, the board of 7 people does not know how this impacts an entire community of families, right? We need to look out for these families. We have to think about the transitional period that these children will go through. I know so many children that are going to have 4 and 5 schools in a matter of 6 years. So once we have a plan, I think we need to pull it apart and actually make sure that there's a lot of support there and a lot for the parents.
Thank you. Jennifer?
I agree with what everyone says. I think we need to put some pen to paper. I'm a firm believer in a plan with milestones and dates. So I would like to see a plan of each of what needs to be done by what time and by what date, and hold our administration accountable to that. And I agree, there's a lot of issues that parents have that are valid. And we should pull the parents, put the top issues together, and then strategize how to solve them. Because I believe that there are solutions to many of these issues, and we need to engage both sides and make sure that we come up with them. There's a lot of positives to the plan. There's a lot of strengths, and I think that we need to showcase those strengths and make sure that everyone understands why the board has chosen this model. Talking about equity and diversity. So, show that information so that people understand. And unity, we need to unify this district and this community. I would love to see us all be sailors as soon as possible.
Thank you. With this next question, we'll begin the answers with Sarah. Will you push the district to be more transparent and communicative about the plans for the transition to the Princeton plan and share detailed information with the community regularly?
100%. Again, another question that I love, as it was part of my introduction. I'm all about communication and transparency, and I think that's what we need. Like I just said, we don't know what this plan looks like. I mean, we know, we have an idea of what it looks like, of course, but we don't have details. So it's almost hard to even know if we're in favor or against it. We may be against the idea of it, but we might be in favor of the idea of it. We just don't know. We need details and we need information about it. As far as transparency goes, we need to give the parents in this district as much information as we legally can. Look, we all know there's parameters, there's guidelines, there's laws. We can't just be an open book, right? But we can share as much as we are legally enabled to share with the parents and the community. There's nothing stopping the Board of Ed members from saying, I got you. We can't discuss it, but we're discussing it. It's sort of like you can talk about it without talking about it, so that everybody feels comfortable that their needs, that their voices are being heard.
Thank you. Alexis?
Absolutely. So 100%, I feel that we are constantly rushing to play catch up. So I think there was even times in COVID where we felt like we were really in the dark on things and the district might not have even known. So we just need to say that, right? And that applies here to the Princeton plan. Even the vote, if you go back to the night that the vote was done, it was rushed, it was pushed. There was no urgency, nothing was gonna happen in 2 weeks' time. And it left parents feeling distressed. When I talk to parents, they feel distressed, and we do not want that. We don't want anybody feeling that way. So we need to bring back stability. So the more transparent you are, the more stable, happy, comfortable people feel. Okay, that's the bottom line.
Thank you. Jennifer,
Can you repeat the question again?
certainly. Will you push the district to be more transparent and communicative about the plans for the transition to the Princeton plan and share detailed information with the community regularly?
Absolutely. We need to be more transparent. We need to be communicating more. I'm wondering if we could set up a newsletter that specifically goes through the Princeton plan agenda, something that could be provided to the community monthly or quarterly so that everyone understood the goals of that particular time period and where the district and the board were, so that everyone had a clear picture of how it was progressing. Just something that I think the community can track, so it's not just sitting at a Board of Ed meeting, because there are a lot of parents who don't go to Board of Ed meetings, but they still want that information. So maybe a newsletter or something that was specific to the Princeton plan, because it is a big change for our community.
I believe you called on me, though you're muted, Stephen. Yeah, that seems like a real softball question. Of course, I want the board to be more transparent. We should be absolutely as transparent as we can, and we should not only be transparent, but we should be actively getting information out there. It isn't enough that it's there if you dig, or it's there if you are still tuned into the board meeting at 10:45 on a Wednesday. It needs to be pushed out there. I think that we need a clear schedule of what's happening and when it's going to happen, and I think that that needs to be accessible. Whether it is something that we email out and hope that people don't delete, or send home with kids and hope it doesn't end up in the backpack, it can be pinned to the top of the HenHUD homepage. It should be something that people have to actively ignore. We need to force the community to tune us out rather than expect them to come down the rabbit hole to even know if they want to be interested, and that applies to Princeton as much as it does to anything else. And I think that it is important to say that as far as the plan for Princeton, I think that it is a valid critique that we don't know the plan, but I think the bigger problem is that our mentality is to wait for someone to give us a plan before we're going to give any feedback. The way we should be running the community is to bring all of our heads together and to get everyone's ideas and solutions and then make the plan. If we wait until there's a plan, then at that point we're scrambling to build the plan from scratch when the whole community freaks out. So the whole problem here is that the community is not involved in deciding what it is that we're going to do as a district. That's why there's not a plan. We should come together and decide what we want and then figure out how the details are going to function. That is the way to get where we need to be, in my humble opinion.
Thank you.
Stephen, could I ask a technical question?
Yeah, go ahead.
My understanding was we had a couple of opportunities for follow-ups in this discussion, but it's unclear to me how we raise our hand that we want to do that. I don't want to step on someone.
Okay, my apologies for that. That was an oversight. Each candidate is we should have discussed this before, but since it has come up for two of you, we should talk about it. We two rebuttals per candidate, and just raise your hand and say rebut. And Sarah, you in this round are asking for a rebuttal?
To the entire time or two per session?
The entire duration of the forum.
You know what,
Okay,
I'll take one now.
Okay, go ahead. 30 seconds then. 30 seconds.
Okay. I just want to make it really clear that as a Board of Ed member, and I'm not making any kind of accusation because I wasn't privy to any kind of executive session, I would never vote on an idea or an ideology or a policy that is not written in a concrete manner so that you know exactly what you're getting. As a Board of Ed member, I just want the community to know I would never do that. I would 100% demand that we have information.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Thank you. Okay, so I apologize to all of you for not having made that clear before, but just to repeat so we're all clear, we do allow 2 rebuttals over the course of the forum for each candidate. And if you wish to rebut, just simply raise your hand and say rebut, and I will recognize you. So the next question, we will start with Alexis. And the question is, what are your thoughts on your school district's programs for special education students, English language learners, ELL, and gifted students? Alexis?
Can I just ask you a question real quick? Did you say your school or are you talking about the district? I'm not clear on that.
I'm sorry, it says on your school district's programs.
Okay, awesome. So that's a fantastic question. I actually am very, very passionate about this. Well, one, I have experience with my son having an IEP, and I've been trying to learn more about what's going on at the middle school level since I'm headed there. And I think our special education needs a full restructure. I don't want to see any of the current issues kind of roll over into Princeton plan and we don't, address any of those. But it sounds to me that we have challenges on every level. And perhaps the reason that our ranking and our test scores and our math regions and all of these things are not doing as well as they should or they would have is because we're not addressing it at the very young age. I know there's more and more children coming in with IEPs, which says that our nursery schools, there's things going on there, right? We're having children evaluated and we're putting plans in place for them, which is amazing. However, if you're not educated, you don't know. You don't know to ask for an evaluation, and some children just slip by the wayside. And I think that our special education program needs a full overhaul, not a Band-Aid. Complete overhaul. Someone needs to come in, look it over. The group needs to talk about it, hold community forums, speak with specialists, whatever it might take. Our special education program is by far not suitable compared to other districts.
Thank you. Jennifer.
I mean, in general, I would say the programs are not personalized enough. I think each child it has an individual plan, and I don't think that they're personalized and have each child should have a caseworker or someone that they know that will support them, someone they know that they can turn to, the student and their parents. I think we need to address issues at a younger age. It's disturbing and saddens me when we have kids in middle school and high school that are, just being given IEPs or being put being on 504s at an older age. We need to identify those situations much earlier in their education and make sure that we provide them the support that they need earlier to ensure their success as they get older. I think we have the tools and the ability to do this. I think we have the staff available. I think we just need to reorganize the way we do it. And I appreciate the love that our teachers give our students. So I just want to see them be, I want the best for everybody. I want to make sure that they all succeed.
Thank you. Luke.
Thank you. I will acknowledge that our special ed programs is something that I don't know enough about, and I look forward to learning more about. I think that whatever weaknesses Hendrick Hudson has in its special education program, I still perceive it to be a magnet of public schools in the area for children with special needs. I know that when we moved here, that was something that was advertised to us and that people encouraged us about. I think that when you expand that conversation to include English language learners, suddenly it's a little bit less rosy, and we find ourselves with a population coming into kindergarten even without the pre-K prerequisites or the language prerequisites who are behind their peers. And I don't think that we do nearly enough to ever catch those kids up. They start elementary school without the foundation that their peers have, and then they rise currently through a class structure that never gives them what they need to get there, not just in language specifically, but there's a whole cohort of our students that fall behind. We can decry the song and dance of testing, but BV is currently a red school statewide. Nobody wants to see their kid end up there. And a lot of that has to do with the difficulties that kids coming from Spanish language background are having, trying to merge into a population of kids who attended pre-K where somebody even knew what an IEP was. I think we have a huge amount of work, and hopefully Princeton, one of the things it can do is at least bring all of our eyes together on solving that.
Thank you very much. Sarah.
Mr. Cohen, I'm going to need a repeat on that one as well, please.
What are your thoughts on your school district's programs for special education students, English language learners, ELL, and gifted students?
Okay. Special ed, as I stated in my opening, in my opinion, is hands down. I've had no issues whatsoever with our special ed programs. I've experienced it at BV, I've experienced it at Furnace Woods, and now I've experienced it at Blue Mountain Middle School. I've been working closely with, I'll give her a shout out, Ellen Gargiulo at the elementary level, and she's fantastic. Anything I need, anything I ask her about, she gives to my kids. But let's be clear, not every child has an advocate like myself. They might not have the capability, they might not have the ability. There may be a host of different reasons, but we need to be advocates for that population of students if their parents aren't able to be. So my perspective is based on my own advocacy. My kids get what they need. They're doing amazing. Special ed is fantastic in this district. I'm going to say at this point. I need more information on the gifted programs we offer. And I also need more information on the ELL programs that we offer. I could say one thing, if you're gonna, well, AP is not gifted, so never mind on that. But yeah, I'm gonna ask. I'm not gonna speak on something that I'm not familiar enough with. I need more information, and I need to look into what gifted programs we have for our students, as well as what we're offering to the ELL students as well.
Thank you. So now we begin this next round of responses with Jennifer. And the question is this: do you have any conflicts of interest that could affect or impact your ability to serve this board fully, including any personal relationships with staff and or professional responsibilities, including employment? Jennifer?
So I have been honest since I started my candidacy. I work at Indian Point. I work for Entergy. I will be transitioning over to phase 1, and I will work for Holtec, CDI/Holtec. I have spoken at length with both my current employer, my future employer, and the board, as well as my own independent support staff. I believe that every board member wears more than one hat. At a minimum, you're wearing 2. You're a trustee and a parent. I have a third. So I'm a parent, I'm a trustee, and I'm also an employee at Indian Point. But being an employee for Holtec does not prohibit me from performing my role as a trustee. I am able to provide my opinion and my knowledge that I think would support and help the board and this community. But if I feel that I cannot provide an unbiased vote, then I would recuse myself from that discussion. Everybody on the board has the right to do that, and many trustees on the board currently do.
Thank you. Luke?
The short answer is no. It's tempting to take these 2 minutes to run my mouth about something else, but out of respect for the people who put together the questions and everyone who's watching at home, many of whom I'm sure stayed up until whatever o'clock it was they wrapped up last night, I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Sarah.
I have absolutely, you know what, actually, I'm going back. Can you read the question again, please? I want to answer it 100%.
Do you have any conflicts of interest that could affect or impact your ability to serve this board fully, including any personal relationships with staff and or professional responsibilities, including employment?
I have absolutely zero conflicts of interest at this point. I did my due diligence when I thought about running. I work for a national law firm. We have a gazillion cases all over the country, including New York State. And I checked with my company. I checked with our headquarters out in LA. They ran all kinds of conflict checks and I came up clear. I would never, ever, ever put myself in any kind of compromising position where I would either jeopardize my position on the board, risk any sort of lawsuit against the district or the board, or jeopardize my job. Conflicts of interest in our day of eight, in our times, are taken really, really seriously. They're really no joke. I have zero conflict of interest. I have no personal relationships with anyone. With all due respect, I don't consider a parent-trustee relationship to be any sort of conflict. I mean, I think we kind of want parents to be on the board of trustees at this point. So that's really no conflict. And I have no conflict, and I did my work to make sure of that.
Thank you. Alexis?
No, I have absolutely no conflicts. Thank you.
Okay, that's short and sweet. Thank you. So this next question will begin the questioning with, and I will, in the spirit of full disclosure, we had a follow-up question which really was answered during this previous question. So we're going to skip forward, and I now have to just rejigger the who speaks first. And for this next question, we'll begin with Luke. And the question is, what is the role of schools in teaching children about topics such as sex education, cyber safety, and AIDS, wellness, and bullying? Did you get that?
I did. I'm going to try to do it off the cuff since I'm first. I won't take notes. I think that the schools need to be sensitive to the fact that different families and culturally people have different levels of comfort with how explicit things like sexual education is in school. You know, what one family feels is a completely appropriate, frank biological discussion is completely inappropriate and overly explicit for another. And I think we need to be mindful of that. Having said that, I think that schools are going to be where most kids get information on these things. And these are things that kids need to know about. I think that up to the limit that the community will tolerate, we should teach children responsible sexual practices. I think that abstinence first is obviously the sort of push of it, but I think that an abstinence only education plan is ridiculous. And I don't think that that has worked hardly anywhere. And I don't think it would work here. I think that bullying, especially as children are online even more, and now that every one of our students has a Chromebook, is an even bigger issue. It's very different than it was when we were kids. And I think that the schools, again, have an opportunity to model and ensure that correct behavior exists. I think that there's got to be a way for children to see the right way to interact with one another in bullying as in other things. I guess I should have taken notes because I forgot the last 2 bullet points, but I think I'm dwindling on time anyway.
Thank you. Sarah?
So we need to tread lightly on some of these topics. We need to be sensitive to the different members in our community. and how our parents feel about these topics. Bullying, we should have a no tolerance policy for. I mean, hands down, there's just really no excuse for that. Bullying, anti-bullying, all of that needs to be taught. It's got to be part of the curriculum. It's got to be part of the curriculum starting in kindergarten, I think. I mean, that's where bullying starts, on the buses, in the kindergarten class, on the playground. All that is super important. As far as the sex education, I see our schools delving into that, but we do need to be really, really sensitive, and we need to look at different curriculums and our different options if we're going to introduce those topics to our students. And we also need to look at what age level these topics should be introduced, and just really be careful about how we introduce this type of curriculum to our schools.
Thank you. Alexis?
Okay, so my response is sort of to begin with a question now of what are we doing now, right? We're teaching these things now, but to what extent? And what does the curriculum look like? Does it need to be updated? You know, is it perhaps outdated? What's going on around us? What are other districts doing? And in regards to, you know, the sensitivity, it's absolutely, you know, all of these various subjects are very sensitive and everyone has different views. But I do believe that you can choose to some extent to opt out. I know, like 5th grade, they go through a lot of puberty. My son just went through it. That's how I know. And they do ask you if you're comfortable with it, and parents review first. So I think keeping that alive and keeping that communication with the parents is important. You know, in regards to touchy subjects like drugs and sex and all of those things, bullying and cyberbullying are not subjects that can be you know, chosen upon by parents, because the belief is not there. Bullying is just not okay and should not be allowed. And I agree, Sarah, it needs to begin from day one, preschool. You know, we need to build our relationships with preschools, but that's a whole nother subject. We can't allow bullying, and cyberbullying is a whole nother beast in itself. So we need to look into the types of curriculum that we can offer that's really up to date to make sure that we're addressing these issues.
Thank you. Jennifer?
I agree with most everybody else's comments. I do think that the education starts with educating our parents. We need to inform our parents how we will be educating their children to make sure that they understand the information that their children will receive and the information they will learn. I do know that there are some instances where we are notified of the education and made it, you know, it's an option if we want our children to participate or not. And I respect that. I think that's a good way to start and to make sure that we have engagement. I don't know the specifics of how we teach many of these subjects, but you know, my daughter will come home in middle school and ask me certain things, and I am honest with her. I think sometimes you need to provide some information and then allow the children and students to go home and also further their education within their own household, so their parents can decide how they want to present it. The bullying and the cyberbullying, couldn't agree more. It needs to start as early as we can teaching, and I think having diverse classrooms will help with bullying, and cyberbullying is something different and new that our teachers I know are working on now, especially with using computers. So all important topics.
Thank you very much. And our final question, we'll begin this round of answers with Sarah. And the question is, what changes should be made to the state and local level? I'm sorry, I'll start again. What changes should be made on the state and local level regarding public education?
That's a very broad question. I don't have a problem with public education, to be honest with you. I'm a strong believer in public school education. I went to public school nearly my entire life, with the exception of a couple years when I went to parochial school. I'm a strong believer in public education. I have my kids in public school. I moved to this community because of our public schools, and I don't have any problem with public education. I do think that we all need to have some sort of equal footing in terms of our children's education. But I don't even think we need to go to the state with regard to this at the time. I think we can work as a board on any changes in our curriculum, and we can go to the administration as well on any changes in our curriculum that we feel are necessary, or any issues that we have in our public schools. But again, I'm a firm believer in public school. We can, of course, we can make everything better and greater and this, that, and the other. But I think it really starts in our community if we're going to make any changes before we even need to go to any kind of higher level.
Okay, thank you. Alexis.
Well, that question kind of threw me off guard because I'm not quite sure that I can bring about change in a state in their education just as being a trustee. However, if you want to know how I feel, I obviously love public schools. I have my children in the public school system. I have no major issues. But if you want to probe at my thoughts, I'm thinking that elementary education, and I'm not sure how I feel about others, but just because I've experienced there, I think we could get a little bit more back to basics. I know we all use computers and technology, and it's so important that these kids are learning that. But my son's penmanship is horrible, right? We're so focused on flying through the math curriculum that we're not stopping to learn important, like simple life skills. And not that that shouldn't be taught at home, but I think there are some basics that we could bring back to education. And I don't want to dive in too deep and try to sound like an educator, because I am not. But I do think that there's maybe, ways that we could, as a community and a group, bring back some basic, simple things that kids might really enjoy to learn as well.
Thank you. Jennifer.
I too am a firm believer in public education. I grew up in public education, and I moved, I stayed in this district and came back and to live in this district because I wanted my kids to go to public school. I agree that getting back to basics is something that is near and dear to my heart. Learning your ABCs and not rushing everything along, understanding when you need to stop and take it a little slower for kids, specifically in elementary school levels, learning life skills, teaching kids how to use handwriting, not just typing on the computer, teaching kids how to be more compassionate and how to be kind. Ensuring that we make sure that our students know that the most important thing is that they're good people, that you don't need to be a college bound student to be successful, and making sure that we teach them that from kindergarten, that they have there's many opportunities out there for what success looks like.
Thank you. Alexis, are you going to rebut something that someone else said? Well, then I think we're gonna move on. Luke, this is your opportunity.
Thank you. I also am obviously a strong believer in public education. I'm a graduate of public schools, and I feel like I was well prepared going through the school district. And when I look at Hen Hud today, the offerings that we have for our children here, they dwarf what I had as a high schooler. I think that I would also reinforce what Alexis said about, I think that, kids can handle what we're giving them, but we are missing a lot of the basics. And I think that part of the reason for that is the level of sort of micromanagement that is coming down from up in Albany or even federally. I don't pretend to know that policy well enough to get into it. The amount of testing that happens seems crazy to me. And a kindergartner, when we met his teacher, we found out that the sight words that they get are chosen in part because they're the sight words that are usually on the sight word test that the state gives. So put, which you would sound out as put, you got to learn put as a sight word, which is fine. It's a good word to learn. But how are we already choosing our kindergarten curriculum based around a test? It's nuts. And the other thing that I think is a larger than HENHUD policy is pre-K. In speaking with the principals and in talking to people who deal with the incoming kindergartners across our district, but especially at BV, the disparity in the skills and experience that kids have coming in is staggering. And there are families that can afford to send their kids to a pre-K, and then there are kids who come in with no education. And I mean, then they just begin to build their house without a foundation. And I think—
Thank you very much, Luke.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have now come to the end of the question and answer period, and we will wrap things up with 1 minute closings. And we will be, the order of the closings, I'll just remind you, will be Alexis, Sarah, Luke, and then Jennifer. So Alexis.
All right. Well, I thank you all for joining tonight. I really applaud our community for stepping up and getting involved in these challenging times. I want to remind you all that voting for a Board of Education member is not like any other role that we often vote on. We're not really looking for someone that's identical in our beliefs, but we're looking to elect 2 people to this board who will serve our community without their own agenda, who understand how to review documents, dissect budgets, evaluate efficiencies, ask important questions, implement new plans, but mostly listen to the community. A trustee needs to be someone that we trust. And I feel I've lived a very honest life here in this town, and I want to work for all of you. I want to see this district thrive. I want to see our kids thrive. I want to see equitable education across the board. And I just want to see gradual, steady improvement year over year. So thank you so much. If you've tuned in or you're listening to this, recorded, whatever it might be, thank you, because it means that you care. And I think we all care a lot.
Thank you very much. Sarah?
Communication is really, really important, especially at the juncture we're at now. It should be a two-way street, not a one-way street. We want everyone to feel inclusive. Let's bring the community back together and the divisiveness, pardon me, and let's get everybody on board again. Having said that, Board of Education work is complex and complicated. We need people we can trust and who have the ability and readiness to serve our community. At this time, it's important that we have a board who is willing to work together with our community toward our common goals. As the slogan on my campaign sign says, which I'm sure hopefully you'll all see soon, it's time to build bridges. And it starts with all of you on May 18th. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Sarah. Luke?
Thank you very much. I think that moving forward, what this district needs is clear communication, community involvement, some way to spread information out and bring input back in. In going through this campaign process, I came across the quote that agreement is shared beliefs, but alignment is shared intentions. And it sounds kind of pat, like something you'd see in a coffee shop, but I think that it's true. And what we really need is a Board of Ed that can find how to get to the shared intention that we all have of making Hendrick Hudson into the district that really works well for all of us. I'm not trying to find a way to make everyone agree. I'm hopeful that as a board trustee, I can help find a way that works for all of us and that gets all of us to the place that we're all trying to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jennifer?
As a board trustee, they lead the community. When you lead, you create a picture of what is possible. I see that our district has endless possibilities. I see that our children are passionate, and I see that in their eyes and in the hearts of our teachers. I believe in creating good humans, and does not come second to academics. It is equally as important. As a board trustee, I strive to give every student the support needed to reach their own picture of success. I will work with our trustees to set standards that keep our district mission on the forefront and hold our administration accountable. As a trustee, I seek to keep our community engaged and reinstill trust. I see the community we can be. I see us being supportive and strong.
Thank you very much. Well, we've come to the end of this evening, and before I leave you all, I just want to congratulate all of you on a very thoughtful and considered conversation, and for putting yourself out there to serve in this very important position of board trustee. And I will remind everybody to, if you haven't figured out the importance of this, certainly, hopefully this evening has confirmed and demonstrated the importance of these positions. And I urge all of you to go out and vote on May 18th. With that, I bid you all, I thank all of the candidates and everyone who put this together, and I bid you all good night.